All right. So we got about 16 people in here, counting myself and our speaker, Amesha. So I'm really excited. This is our first webinar that we've done as a part of DFW Environmental Pros. So I'm really excited to have a nice meaty group. And hopefully it's something that we can do more often. So welcome those of you who have never been to any of our meetings or meetups. It's totally unofficial, but hopefully one day we'll get to meet everybody in person as well. So you probably have already connected with our LinkedIn page. If you're on this meeting, that's probably how you found out about it. This is our main page for communicating out events and information. So if you're not already connected with the page, definitely do so. I also like to share a lot of different, job positions and internships and stuff like that, and just kind of spread the love amongst our community, maybe opportunities you wouldn't have seen otherwise. So definitely take advantage of that and connect with us. And if you have a job maybe that you want to share and put out there, I'd be more than happy to advertise that out as well from the page. So any type of environmental announcements that you want to put out there, just shoot me a message on the page and I can definitely do that. Something else that we've been doing is a spotlight on different environmental professionals within DFW and beyond. So if you're interested in that for yourself or someone else, definitely feel free to shoot a message and we can make that happen. Of course, somebody's calling me. Send them to voicemail. But yeah, just let me know and we can get your face out there. It's just kind of a fun thing to appreciate and kind of see, the different environmental professionals in the area and just more of a community. So just let me know anything we can share in here, I will. So these are a few QR codes just to share with you guys. Okay, yeah, you can see those on there. If you scan them with your phone, it takes you to some free environmental guidance on one of my web pages. So it's a variety of environmental resources, quick links, guides, and then the EHS training portion of it. Any trainings that I put together, like 8 hours, RCRA training, health and safety trainings. I basically upload them all into the Google Drive. So, sharing is caring. Please get in there and use those if you need to. They're obviously a little bit obnoxious, just like every presentation I put together, but they're not boring. So there's that. So feel free to use those, scan those QR codes. And if after the meeting you want me to send you the link, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll get those over to you. And I never even said who I was. Those of you who have not met me, see, I always do that. I just start blowing and going. Those of you who have not met me, my name is Abby Holovach. I started this group last July. Like I said, just an informal meeting of similar folks, maybe people who just want to grow professionally and meet other people in the community. So that's me. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, feel free to look me up, Abby Holovach. I love to share resources, sharing my trainings, anything that we can share. So that's me. But more importantly is our speaker today. And I'm really excited that she reached out, interested in doing this for us. Like I said, I'd love to do more of these. So I'm just going to read her little introduction here and then we'll get ready to let her get started. So, to start, Amesha Morris is an environmental specialist with a robust 15-year background in stormwater management. Growing up in a military family, her roots spread globally, but they found home in Tennessee. She boasts an academic foundation from University of North Texas, woo woo, me too, with a bachelor's in biology and a master's in environmental science. And just to note, UNT offers a really cool program. It's called a Professional of Science Master's program. That's what I got for my master's. So you don't have to do a thesis project, which, oh, see, there you go. Birds of a feather here. You don't have to do a thesis project. You take business courses mixed with environmental science courses. You do have to do an internship, but it's really great experience. And especially not, having to mess with the thesis part. And that's, it's not really my thing. So it's a really great program though. So if you're interested, obviously you could talk to either one of us about it, but there you go. That's cool. So she's got a couple different certifications here, which I will let her explain what those acronyms mean. But she's a
Uh,
dedicated. Oh, go ahead, please. Yes, jump in and explain what those are.
most of those are specifically for stormwater. So if you
Yeah.
do construction, you get an assessee from EnviroCert, C-Spec. I've never said that correctly. That's like if you're doing any of the SWIPs, construction SWIPs, industrial SWIPs. CFM is a certified floodplain manager. So there you go.
Perfect. No, great to know. Great to know. I mean, I've got some acronyms as well, but there's quite a few credentials, so that's awesome. Good to know. So she's a dedicated trainer for EnviroCert and Georgia Erosion and Sedimentation certifications as well. And she has a commitment to continuous learning. So we're glad she's here to share her knowledge. She's launched her own company, Acorn EnviroComply, an environmental compliance training and consulting firm that's passionate about helping smaller companies thrive as good neighbors, balancing compliance with environmental mindfulness. I got to move this out of the corner. Her training approach is innovative, focusing on providing attendees with practical skills and resources necessary for managing compliance processes in the construction and industry community. Coupled with an engaging presentation style and unique insights, attendees are guaranteed to leave with actionable takeaways, which is always what we all want when we go to a training. It's something that's functional and that we can use. So these actionable takeaways is awesome. She kind of gave me a little sneak peek of some of the stuff she's going to show us. So it should be a really good presentation. Feel free to drop your name in the chat. If you drop your email, if you want to connect, whatever you guys want to drop in the chat questions, I'll be watching it as she presents. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started here. Let me jump out of my presentation. Oh, there you are. See, it even says it. Let's get started. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and mute myself and go away and let you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate this. It's been a fun endeavor trying to figure out hey, I started my own thing. How do I let people know? As well as the big thing for me is sharing the information I've learned in the industry. I've just caught on that there's a lot of people that, they don't understand some of the requirements or just don't have the quick access that they need. And so some of the things I'm going to go over, some of the resources that I've found that have been really useful, they are geared more towards stormwater as a whole, but I will say some of these things are great for any kind of environmental background. This will be great for those that work with industrial facilities as well, or any facility that has like an EPA regulation, like a RCRA or air permit, something of that nature. And so at the end of this, I will try to, let me see if I can get it. I could pull up the chat. It doesn't look like I could pull up the chat at the same time as doing this, but I will put all of the links, the direct links in, and as well as just send a document over to Abby. So if she wants to flip that out to anybody that attended or anybody that needs this information going forward, you'll have the direct links. And so you don't have to worry about what was that? Can you say it? Can you copy that? All those kind of items. So a lot of these are websites. Some of them are databases. They get updated all of the time. We're going to focus on the EPA first, then we're going to run through the TCEQ. I'm going to try to be really mindful of the time and give you guys some time to ask questions at the end if you would also like to. And then I do have one request. I am working on a training and I would really like to get some environmental professional eyes on it. It's a 10-minute survey. You don't have to give me your information. I'm not selling you anything. I really am just trying to make a really good training. And so I'll have that link at the very, very end. So
Hey,
let's get
Amesha,
started.
sorry to interrupt you. And when I filled out that survey, I didn't even know that was your survey. I just happened to see it and I was like, oh, which is funny. That's funny. It was yours. Good. Well, I'm glad I did it then.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the help. It's been getting around a little bit in the local and some of the national community. So I'm really appreciating that. And so now I might be gearing it a little bit more state specific as there are different regulations for everybody. So just having that out there. Thank you for doing it, Abby. All right, so the first thing that we've got is the EPA How's My Waterway. It's a really simple site. They've definitely built this more to be outreach for the general community, but as environmental professionals, it is a helpful, let me do a quick stop, look up what are some of the regulations, some of the concerns. It's a great way if you are municipal, if you have any citizens that would like to be more involved, like to have more information. This is a great way to say, hey, here's a website that's already up. It contains a lot of data and it makes it easy and user friendly. And so on here, it'll give you an overview. I clicked Fort Worth because I recently moved from the Fort Worth area. And so I kind of call that my hometown area in the DFW region. And so it gives you an overview of what's a watershed, what are some of the water bodies, some of the monitoring things. Oh, hold on just a second. Let me get this out the way. Boop, 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 boop. That's a better layout. Yes. And so what's nice about this, What's nice about this is you can flip straight to the community section. You could see which watershed you're talking about. You can click on other ones if you want to, and it'll flip over. It'll provide you all of those kind of that information that you would like to see. It allows you to put in your address if you want to go to your specific address, which is really helpful. And then it also highlights, hey, streams that are in good, standing, and then streams that have some concerns. And so citizens have the ability to see this, interact with that, all of those items. And so also be aware of that if you are sending that out to any citizens. They might now have a concern because they've flip through and they see this big red line that says, what's wrong with the stream? Why is it impacted? But at the same time, it provides all of that information. So it says, what are your water bodies, monitoring locations, permitted discharges. So if you are an industrial industry or a city itself, you're a permitted discharger. If you have a stormwater permit, that would be construction, industrial, or MS4. And so it lets you know who has that, where they're located, maybe some of the chemicals that are connected with that, or impacts that or potential impacts for that waterway. Kind of lets them know, hey, if you want to scroll through, it'll highlight the different waterways as you go across it. You can click on it and it kind of gives you the last reporting, some of the concerns. So it's good for, aquatic life. Sycamore Creek is good for aquatic life, but they've got some concerns for swimming and boating, specifically bacteria. And if you are in the DFW area, bacteria is going to be a major concern. It also gives you the water body report that you can look at, and it's pretty detailed with all of the monitoring that occurred. It gives you, hey, is it impaired for swimming? Is it good for eating fish? No, just no in the DFW area. Don't eat the fish. Fish and release if that's what you want to do, or just don't eat the fish is what I'm going to go say. You have your general aquatic life concerns for that, as well as your drinking water. Where is your drinking water coming from? What's that area? What's the municipality? That has a lot of the consumer reports as well. And if there are tribes, which in Texas, there are only 3 very, very small tribes, and they're not in the DFW area. Of course, you have your water monitoring. So where's your water monitoring site? What kind of site is it? And then any of the potential harms that would be out there. And so they have all of that out for you to kind of peruse, look into, identify issues, those kind of items. So this is a lovely starter. Easy to understand. You can send that to any of the local citizens to kind of get it peruse and for them to gain their own information. Please be aware, of course, if you're giving this out to constituents, they are going to be like, what does this mean? Why is this? What are we doing about that? So be prepared for that. But it is out there and open, and the EPA is pushing a lot more of the outreach. So kind of be aware of your own backyard and have your prepared statements if you need to. But we all know that I think as a whole, having had worked for municipalities, we are doing the work. It's just not work that's seen. And sometimes it's work that's not necessarily supported, but it is important work. The next thing is if you are an industrial complex facility, if you have any kind of EPA permit that's an RCA, air permit, water permit, construction, industrial stormwater permit, any of those items, you can go to the ecoepa.gov and search your facility. This is a great starter if you are new to, let's say, industrial stormwater, and you don't know where you stand, and it's kind of hard to kind of figure out what's my SIC code, which is necessary to determine what your sector is for your industrial stormwater permit, what kind of items you need to have in your SWIP. If that's going to be your concern, this is a great place to start. You could type your facility in, and it should pop up. As long as you've had a permit before, it should pop up and you should be able to see that. Now, I just clicked I think I clicked Decatur. And so these are all the ones that pop up for Decatur. And as you can see, there's some that have little red flags, blue flags, yellow flags on top of it. And those are some of the concerns. As you go down, it'll list the facility, and you can do it in alphabetical order, addresses, city, location. It also gives you the various reports. And so you are supposed to, as a facility, at least for stormwater, I know in end of March, beginning of April, you're supposed to send in your report to the TCEQ saying, hey, these are our samplings, we're good, we're in good standing. If you don't have any impacts or you don't have any of the required heavy metals monitoring for you, and it didn't go out of range, you generally don't need to report that. But for a lot of facilities, there is additional reports that need to go on with this. And so we'll go with Allison Compression Air. When you click on it, it's going to take a minute. Takes a minute to load. It has a very detailed facility report. So give me a second. Come on. Do, 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 do. If it will load, we will see it.
Typical. That's typical.
And please note in this time while it's pulling up, if you have any questions, if you're like, wait, what's the industrial SWIP? What's my sector? Those kind of things, please feel free to ask. But what's really nice about this one is you can see all of the enforcement and compliance history. You can click by air, water, hazardous waste, drinking water, whatever it may be, and it pops up. It also flags if you have any concerns. So as you're scrolling through, you can see that this one, it has an air report. It also has facility documents that you can click on. Anyone has access to these. It says where your location is. So for this one, they have a high priority violation for their air permit. And this was as of November of last year. And so they're probably still working on this, and they're probably having quarterly reports with the TCEQ as well as the EPA, depending on the enforcement level that they have on there. And also, if you have any of these permits, you will see your permit information. It'll say what your Texas code is. It'll say what your, if you have a stormwater permit, it'll say your stormwater permit on there, which is really nice if, again, you're starting out and you're like, I just need some basic information. What are my numbers? What are the reports that I have? What information is already out there about my facility? This is a great landing spot. And so it'll also go into, again, all your permit information, identifiers, all the areas in which you might have violations. And then it gives you, it should give you your SIC code. It probably doesn't for this one because it doesn't have a stormwater, permit. For your stormwater permit at the industrial facility, you will have an associated SIC code. You will see over on this other side the NAICS code. Those two correlate. SIC code, think of it saying like, oh, is it a fruit? Is it a vegetable? Is it a protein? The NAICS code, think of it saying, is it an apple, an orange, a tomato, which is technically a fruit. So it's being a lot more specific. And so you can actually use these codes to identify your sector and any additional requirements if you have a stormwater compliance item, SWIP, SPCC that you need to correlate with that. You can find those SIC codes here. What's really hard is if you are working with the industry, they may not know that. The facility manager may not know this. This is the easy way to go find it for them. Say, hey, this is what you told them, because it's associated with their insurance. And so your facility manager may not have access to all of the insurance information. You could also see your compliance history. Was it an investigation? The type of monitoring that went into it, the dates, times when compliance was completed. It gives you a full rundown list of everything. And again, this is accessible to the general public. So we can also see there's been high violations for a lot of quarters for this particular industry. And then you can also run down and see all of the specific pollutants that they have listed. Now, they haven't had any formal enforcement actions, but it's likely with this number of unaddressed, concerns, they likely will. So, and then it also gives you watershed information. Again, if you are stormwater, it's going to be more related to that. If you're in an attainment zone, which you need to remember, I believe the DFW area, there are certain areas that are in the air quality attainment zone. And then it also has your non-attainment, that's what I meant to say, your air quality non-attainment areas. Are you in one? What are the stipulations for it? It gives you full rundown. Your toxic release information history, did you provide that? What are the concerns? What are those levels? Those are listed. Everything's pretty much in here. One of the big things we do also need to be aware of, the EPA has been under some pressure for environmental justice. It came out recently that the EPA had received a lot of environmental justice reports, violations that had not been addressed for about a decade or so. And so they got sued, and it required them to actually start investigating those complaints. And one of the things that they've done is they've added very recently, probably within the last year, the environmental justice section to this. So it says, It gives you all of the census data. It gives you the general concerns. It also tells you the factors, the percentiles, and whether or not there is any kind of impacts, enforcements, investigations that are associated with environmental justice. And that's going to be a hot topic going forward. So be aware of that. Be aware of what your demographic is. It provides you all of this information. It's a really good, like, one-stop shop kind of location. And let me know if you have any questions about that one. This is probably my favorite database because it combines everything together. It gives you a one-stop shop look at what's in your backyard as well. Construction. Okay, so if you're in construction stormwater and you don't necessarily want to get your CESWI, which I'm not saying don't get your CESWI. I'm a trainer for EnviroCert. I would love you to do that. But it is a requirement through the new construction permit that you do have some sort of training if you're going to do any kind of stormwater inspection on the site. The EPA went ahead and said, here's the very basic level of construction inspector training that you need to do. It is some hours. It's about a days-long course, and there are some homework that you have to do, kind of interact with, as well as a quiz, a test at the very end, an assessment to make sure that you actually understood everything. And once you have that, you can utilize that as a resource. I always say this for those that are first starting out in environmental, thinking about doing stormwater. This is a free resource that allows you to get a certificate, some training, some understanding of the field before you even start out. It's great for interns. It's great for if you're just now starting in the construction field and need, hey, I want to put something on my resume. I needed something additional. This is a great place to land. Now, one of the more interactive ones, and this is for you that are doing environmental planning and environmental reviews, you're doing EISs, EIAs, you can go to the IPAC website. And so this is with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and they've combined a bunch of databases together. What really is helpful is you can get started here. Once you have to make a login, it's a safe, secure login. It is a governmental address. And so you can upload your shapefile. Super helpful if you're already linked in with GIS, so you're not having to do any more. Or you can find your place, or you can, zoom into a location. Let's do Ennis. Boop, boop. And we'll choose something near Love Park. And you could just do a quick little polygon. Beep, 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 boop. I'm going to build in this general area. And say, oh, that's a lot of acres. Let's move it down a little bit. Because if you do too big, it asks a lot of questions. Scooch in, scoochy, scoochy. All right, 10 acres. That's reasonable. Again, it's going to take a minute. There we go. So what it'll do, it'll provide you a bunch of information specifically for any of your environment. Like if you're going to do a quick review for any environmental impacts, hazardous locations, habitats, concerns in those areas. So endangered species, you already have a list. They've given you a drop-down list. We have some bats, we have some birds, we have some reptiles, one that doesn't have a photo, so it's insects, and then critical habitats. Critical habitats is the one that you're most likely going to be most concerned about. That's going to be the one where it's going to ask you for a lot more information, questions, defining your project, those kind of items. Also, as you'll see, it flagged wetlands, and then we'll also have facilities. So facilities will be any kind of area that is a sensitive facility. So if it's governmental, if it's a private park, if it's a city park, if it's a state park, those kind of things, it'll say, hey, your construction impacts this area. So you might need to address that with the responsible parties for that land, or that they call it sensitive lands or sensitive areas. And so if it's a facility or a location that lands in there, you'd know that. And then, of course, because I did actually go into some of that Johnson's Park area, it said, oh, yes, there is a wetland. And so for this wetland information, you're going to need to go and click and provides you a link to the next area that you need to discuss with. So this is definitely going to fall under the Army Corps of Engineers because it's right along that waterway. And so it'll say, hey, click this, get some more information, or potentially add. You probably have to fill out another document. I do not work with the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't do a lot of I think it's the 401 items for the Clean Water Act. That's not my field, but I have used this for construction sites to do a very tertiary, just want to double check. If I'm writing a SWIP for somebody, I want to be able to say, hey, are there endangered species? What are you doing to be mindful that for that? Is this their, migratory time frame? Is it a specific area that's already been denoted? What'll be very helpful is potentially reaching out to that local community and that municipality, because they'll also know if there's a bald eagle or a golden eagle nest already nesting. They already know that, because I promise you the neighbors are like, that eagle, it's so exciting, it's on the Facebook. They'll take all the pictures and you see the little nestling eggs and whatnot. But it's really helpful so that you know what potentially to plan for before it becomes an issue. You can also print the resource page, which is really helpful. I put a resource page if there are any endangered species or critical habitats, but there are no project concerns. I print the resource and I still include that into all of my SWIPs. If you would like to define the project, you can add a name. I always put like tester, and then just general description, and then save. From here, it's going to ask you a lot of questions. It's going to ask you some detailed review items. And so it's going to ask about, hey, how did you actually go through and review to make sure that you did the correct consulting? So it's like requesting the official list. You have determination keys that you have to go through, which is part of the Clean Water Act, as well as the Endangered Species Act, as well as if you want to finalize your, if you did any on-site, on land, hey, we did observations, we did soil testing, sample testing, we got our ecologist out and they double checked to make sure that we weren't going to impact, or we've made an impact plan for this area. You can add all of those items in, and then you can do your finalization of your consulting pack. And what's nice about that, it sends it for review if it needs to be reviewed, and it's all in one stop. It's a very nice package. I generally do not have to use this for the sites that I work with, but if you are building a larger site, especially in an area that potentially you're going to have long-term impacts, maybe you are building on 100 acres of land, you're going to want to make sure that you at least do a quick tertiary review. It doesn't require you to finish. It doesn't require you to push everything through, but you can get information really quickly instead of having to reach out to all of these individual governmental agencies. So this is one of my favorite ones, and I'll be sure to add that link on there. And please let me know if you have any questions on that. Now we're going to flip to the TCEQ, and this is definitely going to gear more towards facilities, industrial permits, stormwater side of things, but it also will have some information for those that are doing just general environmental impact assessments or reviews for their local area. One of the big things I want to point out is you do have your construction stormwater permit, you do have your industrial stormwater permit. There is also a concrete batch plant standard permit that people often don't know about. They often are registered as an industrial facility, which is technically incorrect. They should be permitted as a concrete batch plant, and there is a standard permit for it. You can scroll down to here where it says standard permit, and it was updated in 2023. Please note, with all of your concrete batch plants, you do need to have an air permit. So make sure your air permit is up to date. Those do last for 10 years, but once the 10-year part is up and they have to do the new air permit, it requires a lot more information. And that goes into that environmental justice component, because for Texas, one of the big concerns with the TCEQ and the EPA was these concrete batch plants coming in and spewing a lot of chemical ash, whatever you want to say, out. And not having the required remediation and corrective actions listed out, or the local community asking for more than is required in the permit. So it goes both ways. So you're going to want to review the air permit, but you're also going to want to review the standard permit and make sure you're on the correct permit. That can be a violation. Most of the time it's not, especially because it is confusing, and the TCEQ website, for those that use it, is sometimes a hassle to run through and find the information that you need, where you need it, when you need it. And it's also sometimes a hassle to get a hold of any of the individuals when you need something specific. If you are a smaller industry, that be construction, industrial, concrete, whatever it may be, you can always reach out to the TCEQ. They have a small business line. And if you have a question, it's like, hey, there's something wrong with my SWIP, whatever it is, they are there to help you run through that and help search on the TCEQ website, find that information and provide it for you. You can also reach out to the mentor line. And there are people who have been using the website, who have been doing this environmental jobs for years, and they are touch points to help you actually get your site up to snuff without violations, enforcements, or any of those concerns. TCEQ wants you to be compliant more than they want to fine you. So be aware of that. Next, I would say, is your surface water quality. So for those that work with any kind of river sampling, water sampling, if you are writing a SWIP and you need to know where your general water location is, you're going to want to use the surface water quality segment viewer. And it is GIS linked, which is really nice. You can, if you already have GIS with your organization, you can go in and link that in GIS itself. And you can use it as part of any of the research that you're doing, or if you want to add it to any of the GIS. ArcGIS allows you to make your own apps, maps, interactive web pages. You can use publicly available information like this one. Now, the interesting thing on this is you have to kind of remember how to flip through it. And so you need to remember in order to see all of the items, you need to turn on the segments that you want to actually look at. Assessment segments, I've never found a real use for it. Reservoirs are not what I usually work with, but I usually work with impaired stream segments. And so I want that on. But you got to remember to kind of go up to layers, click down, turn it on. And when you do, this is what happens. Oop. You get to see where every single one of the impacted segments for your local area is. And so if we scroll in, I want to pick on somebody a little different. Let's go over here. Boop, boop. Let's go to Lancaster area, Combine area. You're going to be able to see once it loads, loading. I have so many of these open. Once it loads, you can actually see where your segment is. You can immediately see if your segment is impaired. And if it is red, it means that it's impaired. So it should be on the 303 list. That's your category 4 or your category 5 list. And if you are doing any kind of industrial compliance, you need to be aware of the TMDL list, as well as the 303D list. And please note, this web page is really nice after they've updated, and should get updated about every 2 years alongside with all of the biannual review for any of the stream segments. Now, you need to be aware of this because if you're an industry and you impact any of these streams, specifically most likely for bacteria, again, bacteria is the biggest thing in the DFW area. If you are like a food processor, if you do any kind of fertilizer, those kind of impacts that might exacerbate the concerns for bacteria and E. coli in the local area, you're going to want to make sure that you're aware whether or not you are adding to the problem or if there's additional items you need to know as a facility. So what's nice about this is you can see immediately what segment number you're at. It's a really cool visual. You can click on it. It tells you the name, classifications, your stream, your literal description, the basin that you're in, and it says whether or not you're impaired, and that just says why. Now, I would love it if they added impaired. Is it a category 4? Is it a category 5? Is it on the 303D list? But it doesn't. Oh, just a second.
Bless you. Hey,
Ooh.
Amesha, we've got about apparently
Yes.
5 minutes left with this. This is
Ooh.
what happens when you have a free version of Teams. It only allows the group to meet for 60 minutes. So whatever
Okay.
you got for the next 5 minutes, yeah, just throw it our way. And just so
Got it.
everybody knows, again, I'll disseminate this video recording and all of her resources on our LinkedIn page. So you'll be able to source those as well. So sorry to rush you. I just wanted you to know 5 minutes here.
No problem. Thanks for letting me know. Now, I will say the next thing. This is the interactive website. It's really nice. Again, if you're a facility and you just need to know some quick information, but you're still going to want to go to the TMDL list. That web page, the website, the interactive GIS, it doesn't get updated as quickly as the integrated report. And please note, there is a new draft 2024 report. Now, if you are permitting or if you're doing any annual report items, you need to use the report that has been approved, not the draft report. Use the most up-to-date one, which would be 2022. But as soon as 2024 is approved, you need to check it and make sure that you're updating any of your SWIP items. Because when it comes to it, when it comes to it, any of their TMDLs, if you are on a TMDL stream, you need to double check to make sure that those I plans do not specifically call you out. Most I plans have specific concerns throughout the state of Texas, so definitely the Austin and Houston areas. Some of them are very specific about the type of industry, SIC codes, NAICS codes that are associated with it as well. I know in the DFW area, as far as I know, most of the TMDL plans do not call out industrial, but they do mention if you are an industrial facility, the next time we look at updating our TMDL plans, we're most likely going to call out those that would have a direct impact with E. coli. So I would say go ahead and look at the 2024 draft 303 list. And you also want to go ahead and go in and double check your TMDLs. You know what your stream number is when you go to that the interactive webpage. It'll say 080, it's like 0809L. And you can go to the TMDL list, run through and double check, hey, what does that correlate with? What's the name of that stream? What is the impact that it has on there? And it'll let you know if there's an active I plan. And so that way you have that information for any of your SWIPs. Lastly, I want to say, if you're an industrial facility or any facility, municipal, whatever it may be, and you have a spill, you are required to report this to TCEQ. You're required to report it to TCEQ within 24 hours as long as once it's met the threshold of potential spill. Now, please note, when it comes to oil, and I've talked to TCEQ, they say if you spill any oil and there is a sheen in the watershed, it's entered a waterway, it's entered the watershed, and there's a sheen of oil and it's connected to you, you're supposed to report that. A sheen of oil can be literally like half a cup of oil or petroleum or something of that, and you're supposed to report that. So please be aware of that. The big thing you want to know is there is a spill site for reporting. It'll tell you all the initial things you need to have: date, times, chemical quantity, location, extent of pollution, the source of release, responsible party, steps taken, steps plans, injuries, health concerns, potential environmental concerns. But then there is a 30-day follow-up. So after you've given them the initial, they've made contact, at the end of 30 days, you're supposed to have met all the remediation requirements for that area, and they're going to ask for another update. And so you can go to this page and it says spills information 30 days later, and it'll ask you for some additional information specific on there. So this is a great place. Like, I got a spill. What do I need to make sure gets out there? You can go ahead and add this to your SPCC plans. You can go ahead and add this to your SWIPs, any of your spill plans that you might have for your facilities, or small little locations. Let's say you just have one little container of oil or a petroleum pump, something like that. You're going to want to make sure that you have those steps and you understand what are the reportable quantities as well. So coming to this little link will provide all that information in one-stop shop. So
we got about 30 seconds. What can we squeeze in? 30 seconds.
I think that is the last of it. I think that's most of all the items that I had planned out. The only last thing I have is I'm going to copy this real quick. I'm asking for just people to kind of take a look at the website and say, hey, this is great, this isn't great, whatever it may be. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I would love to, if you guys can review it. That is all I have, literally.
There we go. Last 5 seconds.
That's the whole thing.
Thank you, guys. This will all be posted.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks for coming,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
It actually didn't kick us all out. It's still going.
Oh, it says meeting ends in 15 minutes. All right. Well,
it's been saying that for like an hour.
Oh.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.